The stars of Sector Theta 9 glittered like tiny cold fires outside the viewports of the UN Resolute. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, his hands folded behind his back. The crew moved quietly around him, watching the tactical displays that showed 3 colonies under threat. The tension was so thick that even the usual chatter had died away. "Captain," said Lieutenant Karras, the communications officer, "we just received a broadcast from the Drexar Dominion." Elias nodded. "Put it through." A moment later, the face of General Carvul appeared on the main screen. His features were sharp and alien, with gray-scaled skin and 4 golden eyes that glowed faintly. Behind him stood ranks of Drexar soldiers, still and silent like living statues. "Human Captain," Carvul's voice rumbled like distant thunder, "you are outnumbered, outmatched, and surrounded. I have 1,000,000 soldiers ready to burn your colonies and erase your species from this sector. Surrender now, and I may allow a few of you to live as workers for the Dominion." The bridge crew froze. The number, 1,000,000 soldiers, was overwhelming. 1,000,000 soldiers meant a fleet large enough to blot out the stars. Elias didn't flinch. His calmness surprised even his own crew. "Good," he said. "I have 1,000,000 targets." The words cut through the silence like a blade. For a moment, Carvul just stared as if unsure he had heard correctly. Then his expression hardened. "You will regret those words, human," the general hissed before the transmission ended. The bridge remained silent for several seconds. Then slowly the crew looked to Elias. "Helm," Elias said, his voice firm. "Set a course to intercept their nearest forward fleet. Tactical. I want every drone and probe deployed. I want to know where every Drexar ship is, what they're carrying, and where they're going. We are not just going to wait for them to attack." "Aye, Captain," said Lieutenant Karras, already moving to relay orders. Commander Juno, his first officer, stepped closer. "Sir, we are severely outnumbered. Even if we destroy a few of their fleets, they have hundreds more. How can we hold 3 colonies at once?" Elias turned to her. His expression was calm but intense. "We don't need to fight all of them at once. We just need to make sure that every Drexar ship they send pays a heavy price. The more we make them bleed, the more time we buy for reinforcements." Juno nodded slowly. She trusted him. They all did. But it was clear she was worried. Hours later, the Resolute dropped out of FTL near a small moon on the edge of the Drexar advance. Dozens of probes had already been launched into deep space, feeding back data about enemy troop movements. The tactical map soon lit up with red icons. "They're massing here," said Tactical Officer Ree, pointing to a cluster of signals on the holographic display. "This looks like their staging area. If they launch from there, they can hit Haven, Palace, and Redwind colonies in one strike." Elias stared at the display. "If we split our forces, we risk losing all 3. If we stay here, they take them uncontested." Juno crossed her arms. "We could call for reinforcements, but they're at least 2 weeks away." "That's too long," Elias said. "By then, the colonies will be ash." The Resolute moved closer to the enemy staging area, using the shadow of the moon to hide its presence. From here, they could see the Drexar fleet clearly. Hundreds of warships, carriers, and troop transports forming into attack formations. It was like staring at a storm about to break. "Captain," Ree said quietly, "if they spot us, we won't make it out alive." "Then we make sure they don't spot us," Elias replied. "Deploy decoy boys along the outer rim. Make them think we're spread out and weak." Within hours, a web of false signals and fake transmissions filled the sector. The Drexar, thinking human forces were scattered, began redirecting some of their ships, but there was no stopping the main fleet. 3 days later, a Drexar scout patrol discovered one of the decoys and traced its signal back to the Resolute's hiding place. The alarm blared across the ship. "Enemy patrol inbound," Karras shouted. "Red alert," Elias ordered. "Battle stations." The Resolute roared to life, shields flaring as power was redirected to weapons. The first Drexar corvette appeared on sensors, then another, then 3 more. "Open fire," Elias said. Blue streaks of plasma lanced out from the Resolute, striking the lead corvette and tearing it apart. The others returned fire, shaking the ship with each impact. "Multiple enemy signatures," Ree shouted over the noise. "They've called for reinforcements." "Helm, evasive maneuvers," Elias barked. "Keep them guessing. Target their engines, don't let them run back to the fleet." The fight lasted nearly an hour. By the time the last corvette exploded, the Resolute's shields were down to 20%. The crew was exhausted but alive. Damage report? Elias asked. Shields recharging, minor hull breaches on decks 4 and 6, but we're still combat ready, Juno replied. Elias exhaled slowly. The battle had been close, too close, and now the Drexar fleet would know exactly where they were. Sir? Kara said, turning from her console. Long-range scans show the Drexar fleet is mobilizing. They'll be here within 2 days. Elias stared at the holographic map. The red icons were moving now, like a tidal wave bearing down on them. They're coming, Juno said softly. Elias straightened, his jaw set. Good, let them come. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The crew exchanged tense but determined glances. The battle ahead might decide not just their survival, but the fate of every human colony in the sector. Outside the viewport, the stars were calm, as if unaware of the storm about to descend upon them. The crew of the Resolute worked around the clock preparing for the coming battle. The ship hummed with activity. Engineers reinforced the shields, weapons crews loaded fresh power cells, and the communications team spread false signals across the system to confuse the Drexar fleet. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display. Dozens of red enemy icons were converging on their position like a wave of fire. His jaw tightened, but his eyes were calm. Lieutenant Karras, Elias said, transmit our drone data to all nearby ships. I want everyone to know what we're facing. Aye, Captain, Karras replied, her fingers flying over the console. Commander Juno stepped closer. Sir, we still can't hold 3 colonies at once. We have to choose which one to defend. Elias shook his head. We won't defend any of them. The bridge went silent. We're going to attack first, Elias continued. If we hit their command center before they strike, we can throw their entire fleet into chaos. They rely on coordination. Take out their relay and we take away their advantage. The tactical officer, frowned. Sir, that relay is deep inside enemy territory. Their ships will be everywhere. If we go in, we may not come out. Elias turned toward him. If we stay here, we'll definitely be destroyed. This is our only chance. The crew exchanged nervous looks, but one by one they nodded. They trusted Elias. He had led them through impossible odds before. Hours later, the plan was set. The Resolute would lead a small task force of 3 escort frigates and 2 stealth corvettes. They would slip through the edges of the Drexar fleet, hit the relay station, and escape before the main fleet could respond. To create a distraction, decoy buoys and fake distress signals would be launched in multiple directions. The Drexar would think human forces were scattered, chasing ghosts across the sector. As the ship prepared to jump, Elias called the crew together over the intercom. Crew of the Resolute, he said, his voice firm but calm. You all know what's coming. The Drexar outnumber us 100 to 1. If we stay here and fight head-on, we lose. But if we strike their relay, we buy time for every colony, every ship, every family in this sector. We are not just fighting to survive. We are fighting so humanity has a chance to live free. Whatever happens out there, know this, I am proud to stand with every one of you. A cheer rose through the ship, even in the engineering decks. The crew was ready, into enemy territory. The jump into Drexar space was silent and tense. The Resolute exited FTL near a dense nebula, its blue and purple gases glowing faintly against the stars. There, Ree said, pointing to a bright spot on the holographic map. That's the relay station. Massive energy readings, heavily shielded and guarded by at least 24 warships. Elias studied the display. The station was shaped like a huge spire, floating in the heart of the nebula. Around it swarmed Drexar ships like angry hornets. Helm, Elias said, plot a course that keeps us inside the nebula. Use its interference to hide our approach. We'll move slow and stay dark until we're close enough to strike. The Resolute glided forward, running on minimal power. Every light on the bridge was dimmed to red, and the crew spoke in whispers. Halfway through the nebula, a Drexar patrol ship appeared on sensors. They haven't seen us yet, Ree said. His voice tense. Hold course, Elias said. If we fire now, we give away our position. Let them pass. The minutes crawled by. Finally, the patrol ship turned away, vanishing into the nebula. Clear, Ree said, exhaling. Good, Elias said. Bring us closer. Prepare the EMP charges. The attack when the Resolute reached firing range, the entire crew was at battle stations. Target the station's power conduits, Elias ordered. Corvettes break off and flank their defenses. Frigates, cover us. The first volley of plasma torpedoes shot from the Resolute, slamming into the relay station's shields. The nebula lit up with energy as Drexar ships scrambled to respond. Multiple enemy contacts incoming, Karras shouted. Hold them off, Elias said. We only need 5 minutes. The battle was fierce. The Resolute weaved through incoming fire, its gunners blasting enemy fighters out of the sky. The escort frigates took heavy hits but kept the enemy destroyers at bay. On the station itself, the EMP charges were deployed by automated drones. The glowing devices latched onto the main power conduits and began charging. Charges armed, Ree reported. 30 seconds to detonation. Helm, prepare to jump the second they blow, Elias said. Chaos unleashed, the charges detonated with a blinding flash. The relay station went dark, its shields collapsing. Across the tactical display, Drexar ships suddenly slowed and broke formation. Without the relay's coordination, their fleets lost synchronization. They're completely disorganized, Ree shouted. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Good, all ships jump out now. The Resolute and its escorts jumped just as enemy reinforcements arrived. When they reappeared in human-controlled space, the crew erupted into cheers. We did it, Juno said, relief on her face. But the celebration didn't last long. Captain, Karras said, pale. We just received a new broadcast from the Drexar flagship. General Carville is coming personally. He's leading the next assault. Elias stared at the screen. The image of Carville appeared, his golden eyes burning with fury. You dare strike the Dominion? The general roared. You think you have won something? I am bringing my entire fleet, human. I will crush you myself. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Elias turned to his crew, his expression like steel. Then we'll be ready for him. The next battle would decide everything, not just for the Resolute, but for every human colony in the sector. Outside, the stars seemed to burn brighter as if waiting for the coming storm. 2 days later, the stars above Haven Colony burned with the light of war. The Drexar fleet had arrived in full strength, a black sea of warships stretching from horizon to horizon. General Carville's flagship stood at the center, its jagged hull glowing with power. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias Ward stood tall. His crew was silent, waiting for his orders. Around them, dozens of human warships formed a defensive line, the largest force humanity had ever gathered in one place. This is it, Commander Juno said softly. If we fail here, there will be no colonies left to save. Elias nodded. Then we don't fail. He turned to the crew. Transmit to all ships, hold the line until I give the signal. And tell the railgun batteries on Haven to stand by. Aye, Captain, Karras said, her voice steady despite the tension. The battle begins. The Drexar struck first. Thousands of fighters launched from their carriers, rushing toward the human fleet like a swarm of black arrows. Target the first wave, Elias shouted. The Resolute's guns roared, bright streaks of plasma tearing through the enemy formation. The escort ships joined in, their combined fire turning space into a wall of burning debris. But the Drexar kept coming. For every fighter destroyed, another took its place, shields at 80%. Ree called out, Helm, keep us moving. Don't give them an easy shot, Elias ordered. The Resolute dove and rolled, weaving through enemy fire as its guns kept firing. Explosions lit up the dark, turning the battle into a storm of light and shadow. Carville's challenge, a sudden transmission, cut through the chaos. General Carville's face filled the main screen, his golden eyes blazing. Human captain, he roared over the sound of distant battle. You have fought bravely, but it ends now. I have brought 1 million soldiers to this war. There is nowhere to run. Elias stared at him unshaken. Good, he said calmly. That means I have 1 million targets. The words carried across every human ship. The crews cheered and redoubled their efforts, their fear replaced with determination. Fire at will, Elias commanded. Turning the tide, human ships unleashed everything they had. Torpedoes, railgun rounds, and energy beams. The asteroid field nearby had been rigged with explosives earlier, and Elias now gave the order to detonate. Massive chunks of rock exploded outward, smashing into Drexar formations and scattering them. They're breaking formation, Ree shouted. Push forward, Elias ordered. Drive them back! The Resolute surged ahead, leading the charge. The human fleet moved like a spear, striking the center of the Drexar line. Ships on both sides were destroyed in the fierce exchange, but the humans pressed on, forcing the enemy to retreat toward their flagship. The flagship duel. This is our chance, Juno said, pointing at the tactical display. If we take out their flagship, the rest of their fleet might retreat. Elias nodded. Helm set a direct course, all power to forward shields. The Resolute charged toward Carvul's massive warship. Enemy fire rained down, rocking the ship, but they pressed on until they were close enough to launch a boarding strike. Prepare the strike team, Elias said, grabbing his rifle. Juno stared at him. You're going over there yourself? Yes, Elias replied. This ends today. Moments later, a shuttle carried Elias and a team of Marines across the battlefield and into the Drexar flagship's hangar. The fight was fierce. Drexar soldiers poured in from every corridor, but the humans pushed forward, clearing a path to the command bridge. Face to face, Elias entered the bridge, weapon raised. General Carvul stood at the center, towering over his command crew. So the human captain comes to die, Carvul said, drawing a curved blade. Elias stepped forward, his rifle lowered. No, I came to end this. The two leaders clashed, blade against combat knife, strength against speed. The duel was brutal but quick. Carvul was stronger, but Elias was faster and clever. At the last moment, Elias disarmed the general and forced him to the floor. Call off your fleet, Elias said, his voice like iron. For a long moment, Carvul said nothing. Then slowly he signaled his crew. Across the sector, Drexar ships stopped firing. The battle was over. Aftermath back aboard the Resolute, the crew watched as Drexar ships turned and began retreating from human space. The colonies were safe, for now. Carvul had been taken prisoner, but Elias treated him with respect, offering him a chance to negotiate peace. You fought well? Human, the general admitted before being taken into custody. Perhaps the Dominion has underestimated your species. Elias gave a small nod. Remember this, General. Humans don't surrender. Not when everything is on the line. Victory days later, news of the victory spread across human space. Captain Elias Ward's words, "I have 1,000,000 targets," became a rallying cry for every soldier and colonist. The Resolute returned to dock for repairs, its hull scarred, but its spirit unbroken. The crew stood together on the observation deck watching the stars. We bought the colony's time, Juno said quietly. Elias nodded, and we showed the Drexar that humanity won't be easy prey. The stars seemed peaceful again, but Elias knew the war was not over. Still, for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to relax. They had faced impossible odds and survived. And the legend of the captain who turned 1,000,000 soldiers into 1,000,000 targets would inspire humanity for generations to come.